Hi, I'm Rachel Salzberg, a mindset and leadership coach and founder of the movement and podcast series, The Riesel Revolution. I believe that every person has the potential to create a story of transformation about their life that's so great it serves as an inspiration and model to our families, our communities, and our organizations. This podcast series serves as a platform for people to have a voice, and it serves as an inspiration for you to write your story. It's my mission through this podcast series to help people to realize their potential by resouling and connecting with themselves, and then resurging with confidence and empowered to share their gifts and purpose with the world. Please join the movement by listening to the Riesel Revolution. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Riesel Revolution podcast series today. And I have the honor of interviewing one of the most dear people in my life. She's helped me in my coaching and have known and worked for her for years. And she is one of the most aspiring leaders that I know. And so she is the Chief Marketing Officer for Windermere Real Estate. And I'm really honored for her to be here today. And she's going to share a pretty powerful story of some life events in her life that have helped her develop resilience and most of all, the resilient mindset to be able to help her move forward. And it's really impacted how she leads as well. So in the meantime, I'm going to let Julie introduce herself and talk to, Julie, who are you? Tell everybody who you are.
Thank you, Rachel, first of all, for having me on this podcast. And what an amazing introduction. I really appreciate those kind words. Thank you. So I am the head of marketing for Windermere Real Estate. Windermere is a real estate company that operates in the Western U.S. And, before all of that, I've kind of done everything in the marketing realm in the Seattle area. I've worked for a few different advertising agencies, some client-side businesses. I've tried the startup thing, done a little consulting. So I'm a broad marketing generalist, I would say. I have some experience in a lot of different things.
Yeah, that's wonderful. But I think through that, you always have had this thread of creativity and resilience and starting over, starting up, and have that experience. And one of the things I remember you saying to me years ago is, we all have a seat at the table, and realizing, wait, I have a seat at the table and I have a lot of creative energy and ideas to be able to contribute. And that's really what I think, you really excel at, and having the confidence to be able to do it.
Yeah, I love the startup culture. And part of what I think is so interesting about that is that you may be hired to work as, the person who does this specific role, but when you're in that mindset of growth and rapid growth, everybody has to kind of put all hands on deck at the same time. And so you learn all of these different skills about different functions. And it really is a collaborative attitude of let's all we're in this together, let's figure it out together. But also I find that the creativity comes in solving those problems that you've never even thought of before. And the startup environment for me just kind of made me feel confident that because we were all sort of doing a lot of different things, that of course I'm going to have a seat at the table or have something to say, because everybody does. There's only 5 of us, or, however many there are. It made that muscle for me a lot more comfortable. And then as the company grew, or I moved on to larger companies or things like that, it was just an ingrained behavior that I had.
I love how you describe this muscle, because, when we start out in our careers, there's a lot of imposter syndrome, or, hey, because I don't have this title or this level of experience, who's going to listen to me? And so it is really about developing muscle, and it's really about letting go of fear and worry. And the other part, what I loved, you talking about is really, everybody's a human, and it's about collaboration and your philosophy as a leader. And that we are all in this together. I was having another conversation earlier today with a leader who said exactly the same thing. And it's really, bringing consciousness into business is really about helping people and empowering people to be able to collaborate and share their ideas. And by you doing so, you empower others and giving each other permission to do the same thing.
Definitely. And that's a leadership philosophy that I hold particularly very dear. I am not here to take the credit or to be the one to win the awards. For me, it's about how does my team feel equipped and supported? Can they do what the business needs to get done? And how do I position everyone as best as I can, for success? And it's the whole, like, the rising tide lifts all boats. And if the team is doing well, then we're all doing well and the company's doing well. And so I really firmly believe in that, just doing whatever I can to make sure that they have the support that they need to do the job well.
Like, what kind of events in your life would you say have kind of helped that philosophy, have helped be able to see through the lens of we're all in this together, we're all rising up, and helping each other? How, can you share some events in your life?
I've learned so much from managers, good and bad, over the course of my career. And it's almost that the best lessons came from bad experiences.
Yeah.
Where you see something, you recognize how it makes you feel, or, how it's happening to you. And for me, that was like, okay, note to self, don't do this. I don't like it, and so then I would kind of change my behaviors to be in a different direction. Or obviously, when there's positive things that are happening, making that same note of do more of this because this makes me feel good. This makes me feel supported. This makes me feel confident and capable of doing the work. It's funny, talking to a lot of different folks over the years. I've worked with a lot of people who have the mentality of just tell me what the rules are. Tell me what the playbook is, give me the rules or, the guardrails, and I will follow them to a T. Mm-hmm. And of course, I think we would all love it if we just handed the playbook of here's how to have a successful career, here's how to move up, or here's how to do the things. But it's different for everyone. And I think that's something that I learned along the way is if I model myself after what the person next to me is doing, whether I think they're doing an amazing thing or not, then that's not going to work for me because that's not authentic to me. So that's the whole picking and choosing thing is I like this over here and this over here and this over here because it feels like something that makes sense for me and how I operate in the world.
Exactly. And I think what you're talking about is kind of the essence of who you are and how it aligns with your values, right? And how you want to be and move through this world as a leader. And, again, bringing kind of that consciousness into business. So that's a really wonderful way of developing your leadership attributes, of kind of looking at those people who are inspiring and that you resonate with. And then, also looking at those people as mentors or coaches, as an example.
Absolutely. And I mean, even just the low hanging fruit of watching different TED Talks and looking at speakers who are inspiring or content that's inspiring. And even if it doesn't feel like it makes sense to your work, you can find creativity and application from anywhere. It's just a little spark that gives you an idea. And then you can think about like how to bring that into your workplace and your environment, but bringing your full self and deciding on those things that are authentic to you are what's going to help you, or that's what's helped me kind of move forward in my career.
Yeah. And I think you bring up a really good point of decision, right? The decision to be you, the decision to move forward, decision to know, what is true to you and to be authentic, and making the decision to not settle. Right. And to align and find situations and cultures in companies, as an example, that align and give you the the whole playing field to try some things on. And, one of the things I remember a leader said to me, who had been actually, or is at Microsoft for 30 years, runs an 11,000 person org. And one of the things she said to me is, hey, I still get up every single day and try to figure it out. So there isn't the playbook, there isn't the thing. And so I think as people, whether it's leaders or people working with leaders, it's to remember that if we allow ourselves to be creative and to figure it out, look how powerful that can be, and that collaborative piece and a safe playing field to learn versus, and if we make a mistake or we fail, then we learn and we grow. And so again, that's the growth mindset, the resilient mindset as well.
I think one of the harder lessons that's come up for me has been just recognizing that in that kind of situation, I don't have to figure it out all by myself.
Right.
You know, reach out to the people around you, whether that is at work or outside of work, and talk about, get ideas, get inspiration. Find some ways to talk about this that isn't just to, kind of make that the deliverable only rests and falls with you, because that's not true of anybody. And so, to change my mindset to think that, well, why would that necessarily be the case for me? It is very helpful to just sort of like reset and think, okay,
yeah,
I can collaborate with the team. I can ask a bunch of people different questions, and through all of the information gathering, we can have a good conversation about how to move forward.
Absolutely. And I think, you say a couple of things, which, is kind of my philosophy. It's like pause and reset, right? And think about ways like belief systems. It comes down to belief systems. Like, as an example, it's not okay to ask for help, right? And to allow yourself to ask for help and to change the belief system that, especially as a leader, we kind of walk in thinking, oh, I have to know it all, right? And it's not okay to ask for help. But to be counterintuitive, change that belief system and accept and solicit help, right? Of knowledge and perspectives and sharing ideas. And so what events in your life have kind of helped you realize that it's okay and important to ask for help?
Yes. So it's going on a year and a half ago, or almost 2 years. I got really sick, and I started feeling just kind of like weird pain and not feeling good. And I would go to the doctor, and they're kind of like, well, it seems okay. Call us in a couple of days if things haven't changed. Things don't change. And so then I go back and kind of had the runaround for a long time, went to urgent care a couple of times, went to the ER a couple of times, and they'd, give you some fluids, and they'd send you home, and they'd say, your fever still persists, come back. And, so after a few rounds of that, I ended up being admitted to the hospital, and I was in the hospital for almost 3 weeks. And, essentially my problem was that I had a very rapid development of Crohn's disease. I'd never experienced it before, never had symptoms. It was not something I've ever lived with before, but it hit hard and fast. Oh. And so they're trying to treat me in the hospital, and nothing was working. Medications they would try weren't working, fluids, all the stuff. I just kept getting sicker and sicker and sicker. And then one day, they have different doctors and surgeons and all the, people come in. And then one day the surgeon came in and said, you have to have emergency surgery in an hour. And if you don't, then your colon could explode and you might die. Oh my. And so that puts your whole life into the funnel perspective, right? Wow. So I had the surgery, and it was really good. And it was like coming out of that, the next day, I literally felt pain differently. I could tell immediately in my body that things were different. Yeah. And I had a long road of recovery, and ended up having another surgery. After that, I'm fine now. But during that whole process, for my husband and I, and it's always just been my husband and I, together for a long time, just living our life and doing what we need to do on our own. And the hardest thing during that process was to recognize that we needed support to help manage our daily life. Yeah. And so there was the recognition of, okay, well, we have a dog, and we need some people to go let him out and take him for a walk. Or, we haven't been in the house in 2 weeks, and it's filthy, and we need some help there. Mm-hmm. We don't have groceries. And my husband's going back and forth to the hospital to let the dog out. In the meantime, he was in school taking some courses for an MBA, and he's trying to make sure that I'm okay. Yeah. So he's completely stressed out to the max, and thinking about like, okay, we need help. And then we have an amazing group of friends who basically forced their way into our situation and said, I know you're not asking, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to get some help for dog walking. We're going to get you groceries. We're going to take shifts at the hospital so that, Mike, you can go home and take a nap and go to class and things like that. And it was life changing, that part of it, because it made me realize, like, of course we have friends and family that we can rely on. That's the whole, human condition. We have this available to us. And just as you would think, well, if my spouse was in that position, if my best friend was in that position, if my sibling was in that position, you drop everything and you'd be there for help. Why weren't we accepting that?
Yeah.
Why wasn't I okay with that? And that was a really difficult realization to come to.
Yeah.
And a huge aha in my life was, okay, it's not going to be a burden to someone else if I ask for a little help now and then.
Yeah. I love that aha and the kind of the realization, right? That it's critical and important to ask for help, and for you to stop, pause, and reset and ask why. Oh, wow, this is a limiting belief. And look how much of a community that I have around me that, of course I do it for others, but why won't I allow it?
Right.
And accept help from others. And so it's a great reset. And I love that allowing piece of it, so that you have a community, just as you do at work, to help elevate and support you. And so how would you say that experience kind of shifted you from a mindset standpoint, and kind of the lens through which you see your life and what you do for work? And then also kind of helping you, and this is a three-pronged kind of question, and a long one, but helped you develop the confidence to ask for help as a leader?
Yeah, I think that limiting belief is so key, of recognizing that and letting it go. So I'm now able to recognize the signs of when to raise the hand and ask for help. And I also have a better awareness in my own life, and at work, of seeing when people might be in need and they're not raising their hands and they're not saying anything, to proactively jump in and just say, how can I help you? How can I help make the situation better? How can I help support you, or whatever those things are? And that was huge for me at work. Kind of getting back to the limiting belief that I had, that if it was a project in my area, I had to be the one to solve it personally.
Yeah.
And so then you take that same belief system and say, okay, well, if you are not at work, you can't do the job. And so it's not that I don't, that I think that my role is so critical that everything's going to fall apart without me, but it's a feeling of responsibility. Like, I'm letting them down because I can't be doing these things, or these projects aren't progressing fast enough, or things like that. And the ownership of the company, and my boss in particular, were unbelievably supportive and wonderful and compassionate throughout this whole experience. And that, again, helped me. That helped me realize it's okay to let go.
Yes.
And to, when I got back into the office, some of the things that I had been working on, and I was gone for like 3 months.
Wow.
Some of the things that I'd been working on were still in the same place. Some of the things had actually changed and gotten better. Awesome. And there was no problem allowing me to just sort of plug back in when and where I could, and transition back to, kind of my normal capacity. And now I can be in a place where, okay, we've got some things that are going on. I mean, this was so true during, still true during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Where life has changed completely for the workforce. And, I'm able to look at that and say, okay, I'm having some trouble right now, and these are the things that I need. Or, these are some support areas that I need. And I don't know that I would have done that as easily or recognized it had I not been through all that.
Yeah. No, it's so amazing how events in our life, whether it's this pandemic or an event, a personal event where it really threatens your life and health for the first time maybe ever, and to be able to kind of think about these events of a learning, kind of this learning opportunity, and then realizing what can we let go of. And you talk a lot about, which I appreciate, kind of the feelings, right? Letting go of feelings, which are just thoughts that are kind of, oh, well, I need to do this. It's my responsibility to do this. And to kind of create awareness around the thoughts that create the feeling of self-doubt, fear, all of that, and to let that go, right? There's an amazing book that I'm listening to right now, literally called Letting Go by David Hawkins. And he talks about the process of that. So now you can be much more intentional around, if the feeling doesn't feel good, whether it's fear, worry, anxiety, you can stop, pause, and reset, and then have the awareness to say, all right, that's no longer serving me. What new belief system, what new thought can create and generate a new feeling place? And then the other part is, you talk a lot about kind of this empathy and compassion. And I do believe that not only in this pandemic, but when we have events in our lives that impact us, that we can be, much, much more empathetic to other people's situations, right? We never know what's going on behind closed doors and what's happening internally. And so being much more aware, and it doesn't necessarily take an event now, to be aware of that. But as leaders, we can move through with much more compassion and empathy, and recognize everybody's on a journey as well, right? And to kind of help each other and model for each other. And that's really kind of what I call the resoul revolution. It's being able to resoul and resurge. Resoul being, okay, let me take 10 steps back, create awareness, and then resurge even to a better, higher place and more effective place with much more consciousness and awareness as a leader. And then we can be that model for people in the community, to kind of help and inspire others by sharing stories like yours. And it's pretty amazing to, and so how then, kind of back to the kind of mindset standpoint, like how do you manage through, where life comes at us, whether it's a pandemic and this intense life event that impacted, your health and was incredibly scary and then shifted everything you did, right? How did that shift your mindset to be able to then develop the resilience to manage through these types of situations?
A few things, I think. One, and it sounds maybe a little reductive, but truly it works for me, which is you literally can only take it one day at a time. You can't worry about something that could happen 2 weeks from now when you haven't sorted out, what today is going to be and how that's going to, impact you moving forward. And I really think, like, and through working with you were really helpful in teaching me about this and in helping me think about like all of these things around reset and mindfulness and mindset. It's a muscle. It's something that you have to practice and you have to keep doing, or you lose it. And it's something that gets stronger over time the more that you're practicing it. And so I try and really be mindful of mindfulness, for lack of a better word, of just being aware of what is making me feel this way, and trying to analyze what are the things that I can control about it.
Yeah.
And trying to take action against those things I can control. And I can't very easily, just go, well, if I can't control it, that doesn't, I can just let it go. But for me, that exercise makes that uncontrollable stuff less impactful to my mental state and my emotional state.
Yeah, no, that I really appreciate you saying that. Thank you. And again, you're absolutely right. Mindset is a muscle. It's a discipline and it's a ritual every single day in terms of how can we pause and reset, quiet our mind, be aware of our belief systems, reset them when we need to. And that muscle takes maintenance and consistency. And it doesn't necessarily take, and it's important that we don't wait until, as an example, a life event, whether it's a pandemic or a scary, another scary health thing, to start to develop that muscle. And as you said, now you can manage through, you can respond differently to life as it comes at you in the most intense times in history, really, so it's an incredible muscle that takes awareness to build. And it's great that you're very, very intentional around it.
Well, I find myself, like at the end of the day, if I look back, I'm more fulfilled in my life when I am able to do that.
Yes.
So, that's the reward for me is, okay, well, if I do this, then am more fulfilled. So why not do that and take the moment or the thinking time and, go out for a walk in the evening to decompress and think about, process the day. And then you have fresh ideas for the next one.
Absolutely. And you bring up such a good point. Self-care is critical. And that means not working all the time. That means taking time to be in nature, to reset, to give your space time, your mind time to just have nothing really, so that there's this rejuvenation place. And it is so critical. Like it's especially when we're working hard and we're working from home and there are blurred boundaries, but to be very intentional every single day as part of your mindfulness of self-care, of taking breaks and creating that space for yourself. And as you're way more impactful and productive. So it's incredible that you embrace that, but then embrace that as a model for others to do the same thing, those people that you lead.
My favorite piece of kind of advice that I've been giving to people over the last year as we've all been working remotely is to take a commute walk. Because one of the things that I found for myself is I had really good processing time in the car, ramping up for the day to go to the office or coming home. I could process what had happened and make like a physical transition between my work day and my at home day. And obviously working and living in the same space makes that a lot more difficult. And when weather permits here in Seattle, which isn't always true, I do like to at least move my body, and get outside and walk around the block, even if it's like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's a physical transition of doing something different, kind of creating the change in your space. And something as simple as hiding the laptop in another room and closing it down and not opening it until the morning of the next day is huge. And so it's not just like sitting there like calling you. You can, move it from your vision.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're talking, I love it because it's really about intentionally creating boundaries, whether you remove your laptop from sight, whether, and literally a chapter to be able to go for a walk, you're shifting and creating boundaries and kind of doing this consistently, right? And then you're setting the condition for others, not only for yourself, but others. And that helps you develop kind of the confidence, right? The follow through of that. And you're then more fulfilled, right? You're much more fulfilled, you're refreshed, and you have the confidence and you give yourself and others permission. And it really is about follow through, ritual and discipline of creating that space. That's excellent. Anything, what would you tell others now? Like if you were to be able to go back in time, what would you say to people, young leaders, aspiring leaders, or leader, when I say that, leaders in your own life, what would you say to them in terms of kind of a gift, a nugget of inspiration?
Oh, so many things. I'm thinking about myself in this scenario. Yeah. Don't take it too seriously. Mm-hmm. We're all just trying to get through, and don't think you have to take on the burden of everything all on your own. Raise your hand. We're all people who care about other people, and so there are people who are going to be willing to help and to work with you through something. So, you never have to take that burden on by yourself or to think that you're the only person that can solve the problem.
Yeah. I think that is such great insight, advice, and nuggets for us all to remember. And, the other thing is, I'm so grateful to know you as a leader and to have like this level of consciousness and empathy and humanness and sweetness, as a leader. And that is, leader of your own life, leader of people, leader of work, and to really emulate that. And you can sense and see and feel the essence of that. And it's just been an honor. And that's why I wanted to have you here today, because it's really just be you, less is more, take care of you. And then everything else kind of falls into place, and to really engage others to help.
100%.
Wonderful.
I appreciate being here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, Julie. Thank you so much. And it's an honor. And thank you for sharing your impactful story.
Please reach out to me if you have a story to share. We'd love to hear from you and how you created change in yourself and developed resilience, purpose, and confidence. You can inspire others to resoul, resurge, to shine, and thrive. You can reach out to me at rachel@facetscoaching.com or go to theresoulrevolution.com. You can also subscribe to the Resoul Revolution on your favorite podcast platform or on YouTube to hear more interviews with real people and real stories of resurgence. By listening, you're contributing to the movement, the Resoul Revolution.